Welcome back to my channel. It's Neeraj Decode. So, topic for this video is the budget 2025, which the Honorable Nirmala Sitharaman will be presenting on 1st of February at 11 a.m. in the Lok Sabha. So, all eyes on Nirmala Sitharaman this budget. We are sharing here the 10 key takeaways. That you have to look after in this budget so that you could determine this budget to be a full-fledged budget or whether it's a budget only for some specific sectors. So my 10 key takeaways and I am sharing in this video. The first one is the export subsidiary hike for the renewable energy sector. Now, renewable energy sector, their demand is to if if I will have to increase the exports, I should get some incentives from the government in the form of the subsidies. Now, the subsidy that is present at the moment is DBK, duty drawback, which is 1% of your FOB value, which they're telling you to increase to a 5% of the FOB value, which will, encourage them and promote the Indian firms to export more, and that will build the global brand. So that is their demand. Let's see whether it gets fulfilled or not. The second one is more important one, that's a capex allocation. So last year, if you'd have watched the budget, the main figure that we were looking at was 11 lakh crores, and the figure that I really liked that Nirmala Sitharaman gave, 11 lakh 11,111 rupees, in lakhs, of course, crores, in lakh crores, not lakhs, for the capex allocation. So we expect this time that to grow around 12 to 15%, which would make a 15 lakh crore budget to the capex allocation. Now, for the first thing, the first point that I talked about renewable energy sector, where I mentioned few companies. For the second, where capex allocation you're talking about, it's only going to be infra companies, JMR Infra, L&T, all the infrastructure companies will be keenly watched there. Now, third key takeaway is the lowering the income tax slabs for the proprietors, individual salaried persons who fall in the tax slabs. So that's a demand from last 2 3 budgets. Let's see how it takes place this year in this budget. So the fourth one is the expecting the government to consider the reduction of GST rate for the online gaming companies and a retro tax to foster their growth. Now, the case we know that of Delta Corp, which is almost half now, more than less than half from their highs. It's just because the order that gave retrospective taxation for all the gaming companies, which they again went to Supreme Court and all that happened. But then let's see. The expectation is that the government reduces the GST tax on it. Now let's see whether it gets fulfilled or not. The fifth key takeaway is TDS on VDA, virtual digital assets transactions, to reduce the transaction, the TDS rate on these transactions from 1% to 0.01 percentage. So that is their demand. VDA are generally, you can understand, in a cryptocurrency form. What VDA is. Now, in a general perspective, I'm telling you. Okay, now layman language. Okay, so the sixth one is the key takeaway is for the allocation for the space and defense. Of course, all the big companies will be under the watch. Specifically, all the PSUs who will, run up like a marathon. Let's see how the allocation for the space and defense will be. Now, the next main focus will be on agri and research innovation. I really, want to see this something coming for the agriculture sector with a bit innovation. Of course, you will gonna watch the subsidiaries of fertilizer subsidies for the fertilizer companies. So that will be also the point, but then some focus and some research innovation techniques in the agriculture sector is the need of the hour. Now, the eighth point that I am more interested in, people are more interested, is in about the startup stacks. Of course, not the general people, like the founders of startups. They want the startup tax benefit. Now, particularly this demand is from the startups who focus on the health focused innovations. They want that their GST or R&D tax, they want that GST reduction or the the research and development that they do. They want some that incentive on the R&D done. So that is their demand. Let's see what happens on February 1st, of course. Now, ninth point is the affordable housing consumption to pick up. Now, affordable housing, of course, government's aim is to build more houses for the people. So the housing companies, the housing finance companies will be in the limelight for that. Are now consumption to pick up. Consumption here, I talk about the FMCG companies. The rural demand is slowly picking up. If you see the results of the companies, that will tell you the thing. HUL, if you see the rural demand was good, but the urban demand is very very slow. If you see Nestle, if you see your Marico, if you see Britannia, rural demand is picking up, but the urban demand is still, lagging, and that needs to be looked after very, very carefully. Now, the 10th point is my all-time favorite point. That is tax on cigar. And though I don't drink cigars and all, but then interesting to understand is whether the excise duty on cigars will be increased or not. This is mainly for ITC, keenly watchdog, because last 2 3 years there was no increase in the excise duty for the cigars. This year it can be an increase, but good thing will be any increase below 10 percentage of the increase will be a very good point for ITC. Anything above a 10% increase will be negative for ITC. Anything below 10% will be a advantage for ITC, because the illegal players will not be able to will not be able to survive in this market when ITC will come up with some increase in price hikes in the name of the increase in the tax or excise duty. So that will be an added advantage to the ITC if it is below 10%. So these are my 10 key takeaways for this budget. Let's see what Nirmala does, and focus on the this key points, and do add upon what you are looking at in this budget, and do like, share, and subscribe to this videos for being updated in stock markets. Yeah, that's the only thing that you can do. So good night all, and that's it for today.